Hello, my name is Andrew Stevenson. I will be the Conservative candidate in the forthcoming local elections on the 22nd of May. I am hoping that you might support me and make me your local councillor. A local councillor is a spokesperson for that local community, not a politician. I'm probably as sick of politicians as a lot of you are, but I don't think the three Labour councillors that we've had here in Broad Green, for as long as I can remember, have been doing a good job as spokespeople for our community. There's a lot to be positive and excited about living in Broad Green, so I'm going to take you on a short journey around Broad Green to let you know some of my thoughts, some of my ambitions for the area, and also to sort of let you know a little bit more about the positive side of living in Broad Green. We're starting here in West Croydon, which is where I live. There's a lot to be positive and excited about living in West Croydon, but West Croydon is also an area where some of Broad Green's problems are highlighted. The investment that's coming to West Croydon and to the rest of Broad Green in the next few years, which amounts to over £1 billion of regeneration, is something to be excited about. The local shops here along Broad Green will benefit greatly from that. About 80 of these local businesses have signed up to a scheme recently that's going to see all of their facades, all of the shop fronts given a real tidy facelift, and that's something to be excited about. This whole area is going to be transformed when Westfield comes in the next few years. But at the same time, this is one of those areas which has highlighted some of Broad Green's problems. We've got a problem in the area, in the Broad Green as a whole, to an extent, with fly tipping and with waste. The Labour Party recently commissioned research into finding out what these problems were and what possible solutions there might be. But the council have been investing more in local waste collection even before this research was done. And I have started to see, where I live here in West Croydon, the situation starting to improve. But have your local councillors made you aware of the Croydon Council fly tipping reporting service? They've invested in a new app on your phone that makes it very easy to report fly tipping that you see in your local area. We're now approaching an area of Broad Green that has seen heavy investment from the council in recent years. The council were able to obtain funding from a local developer and also obtain funding from the National Lottery and so on. But it's an area of Broad Green that my local councillors have told me nothing about. I hear a lot of people criticising Broad Green on the limited amount of open space that we've got in our ward. But have they taken a look at Wandle Park? Probably not. Wandle Park is one of the areas of Croydon that has seen heavy investment over the last few years. You come here on a sunny Sunday afternoon and you will see our local community out in abundance. You'll see them using the playgrounds, the adventure areas, the water features. You'll see them enjoying this open space and you'll start to feel good about living in our local community. We're now parked outside Broad Green Library, which is somewhere I wanted just to say a few quick words about. If you haven't seen Broad Green Library yet, it's a great place to come, and it's a great facility to have access to if you want to take your kids somewhere to read to them during the day. If you want somewhere to use the computers and get on the internet, if you want to read and be quiet and study and so on. in terms of local libraries, I think it's probably one of the best in our borough. It uses the space well, it's well used, it's well run. I know the council have been running a consultation exercise over the last few years to see if our local libraries have been well used and have been run as efficiently as they could have been, and rightly so. In the current economic climate, we've had to sort of look at where we can make savings and so on. But Broad Green is a library that I will make sure is never featured in these cost-cutting discussions. My missus would absolutely kill me if this place ever shut on my watch. It's a place where she took her children when they were young on a regular basis during the day to read to them and to spend time with them, and it's a place that I want to make sure is protected along with the other places in Broad Green that the council have invested in. It's a great facility to have, so you know, get down here and have a look and see what you think. We're now parked on Dennett Road in Broad Green, which is an area that holds particular significance for me. On the right here is where I ran a construction recruitment agency for over 10 years, a local employment business, and over that 10 years I literally employed over hundreds of people from the local area, many of them from Broad Green. It's not also an area where I lived for a few years and where I met my current partner about 8 or 9 years ago. As you know, we have got over £1 billion worth of investment coming to Croydon. It's going to involve regeneration, and it's going to involve probably about 6,500 more jobs for our local area in the next sort of few years. My experience as a local employer and a local business person, I believe, puts me in a good position to make sure that we get our fair share of that investment. One of the things I will be looking to do here in Broad Green is something that I've done previously in another part of Croydon, which is help set up a local job club. A job club is somewhere where you can go for help with your CV and help with your interview skills and help get you a job in the local area if that's what you're looking for. I don't know much about the 3 Labour councillors that we've got here in Broad Green, but perhaps if you know them and perhaps if you speak to them, why don't you ask them what their qualifications are and their business experience, and see if you think that they're going to be in a good position to make sure that you get a fair share of that investment. I don't know, maybe ask the question. But here on Dennett Road is obviously somewhere where I've got a lot of positive memories, a lot of great experiences, but it's also an area where I became acutely aware of one of the local problems again, which is crime. I know on this road there were a number of incidents over the years, I think even a couple of fatalities, and some of them were gang related, and I was also aware of some of the local shopkeepers here being intimidated and having money extorted from them by these gangs, and that really annoyed me. I know local residents have been getting together of late and calling for a local police presence and something more permanent than what we've got here in West Croydon and Broad Green, and I think that's essential. I think if we're to see to be attracting more investment and people coming in the area to spend their money in our local shops, we need to see that the crime element disappears, and CCTV isn't going to work. CCTV hasn't been working. We need to have a permanent police presence, whether or not that's a local police station, I don't know, but we certainly need to see a visual police presence here in Broad Green and West Croydon that I intend to campaign for. As we come to the end here of Dennett Road, isn't it great to see that building work is finally starting to happen here at the Half Moon pub, which has been derelict for quite a few years now? And isn't it great to see that building work is finally happening on the old Volvo garage across the road there, which has also been derelict for a few years now? But on the right there, is the site of the old Royal Mansions that was burnt down in the riots, and I know that our Labour councillors have spent a lot of time complaining about the fact that we haven't built on there yet, and they spent a lot of time making sure that you're aware of this negative side of Broad Green, but they don't explain the complications that there are there at the Royal Mansions. When you think of the number of shareholders, the number of businesses, and the number of tenants that were evicted and that are affected by what happened there in the riots of 2011, it's not an easy affair just to simply wave a magic wand and compensate these people accordingly. It's a complicated process, and I wouldn't know the first thing about how to resolve that type of thing, because it's something that has got no end of red tape, and I don't think our Labour council have given us the full story about that part of our ward. But the riots of 2011 really opened my eyes to how vulnerable our young people are here in Broad Green. And recently, a year or so ago, I became a local youth worker. I've been working at a youth club in a difficult area of New Addington for the last year or so, because I remember hearing about the riots on the radio when I was at work. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, so when I got home I jumped on my push bike and I came down to West Croydon to see it all for myself. And I remember vividly standing to the rear of Central alongside all these kids who were waiting to smash their way in, and I was there while they were sort of running out and escaping with you know, armfuls of clothing and other sort of things that they've helped themselves to. And I looked at these kids, and they weren't uneducated kids, you know, underprivileged kids, you know, in hoodies, and the type of kids that you might cross the road to avoid. These were educated kids who were just there. They just saw an opportunity to help themselves to things regardless of the consequences, and this really made me aware of how vulnerable our kids are when presented with opportunities like this. Even though they knew it was wrong, it was an opportunity to you know, get away with a load of stuff for free, and it made me aware that we need to make sure we don't neglect our young people. And one of the things that I want to do, and I've become more determined to do it since becoming a youth worker last year, is to make sure we get more investment in our youth services. I want to see our young people have access to good local well-run youth clubs, and make sure that we give them opportunities to get off the streets if they want it, to sort of learn new skills. And I really want to be involved in making sure that our youth services are something we can really be proud of. So that's one of the other things that I'm hoping to do if I'm elected as a councillor here in Broad Green. We're now in an area of Broad Green that, if I'm completely honest with you, I didn't even know was in Broad Green until a few months ago. We're here next to the tram stop at Empire Way, and anyone from Croydon will instantly recognise the towers there of IKEA. How lucky are we to have so many decent retail parks, and to have so many business parks, and to have such great transport links in Broad Green. If you want local employment, if you want to be somewhere where you've got easy access to London and to Wimbledon and to Croydon and New Addington and so on, then where better place to be than Broad Green? But I want to make sure that we are aware of places like Broad Green. I want to make sure that we're all aware of local retail outlets that might be opening, or local businesses that are desperately looking for local people. I want to make sure that we're aware of all these things that will benefit us in the long term. But I also want to make you aware of crime that might be happening in your area. I want us to live in a safer area, and I want to make our streets safer, as I've already mentioned. And one of the ideas that I've got that encompasses all of that is an idea that I think has been rolled out in other areas successfully elsewhere in the country, and that is to get Broad Green online. I don't know why we haven't done it yet, but it's something that I want to do. Most people have got email addresses in this day and age, and I want to take all your email addresses, and I want to inform you about all these things that I've just mentioned, you know, local job opportunities, local businesses that are opening, or the local events and so on. But I also want to work with the local police. I want to, if you're living in a road where there's been a spate of burglaries or robberies nearby, and you need to be aware of these things, and if we work with the local police, and if I keep you informed of these things that are happening in your local area, how good would that be? How good would that be? You know, a burglary happens, someone commits a robbery, and within a few minutes all the neighbours there in that area are looking out of their windows and are sort of seeing if they can spot the burglars, and they might have a description of them and so on. Imagine how quickly the police can act then. Imagine if that information is shared, how much safer our streets would be. We need to make our streets safer. We need to build a stronger community, and I think Broad Green Online is something that could work, and it's something that I want to introduce to the area if I'm given the opportunity. Thanks for taking the time to look at this. I hope it hasn't bored you too much, but I just wanted to get some of my ideas out there and to just get you feeling a bit more positive about the area, because the Labour councillors that we've got here, it's all negative, and they're not doing enough to make you happy about the area that we live in, because it's somewhere where I love to live. It's somewhere where I'm genuinely excited about. I think when you look at Broad Green, it's got to be one of the most significant places in Croydon when you think of the forthcoming investment, when you think of the retail parks and the transport links that are already here. It's one of the most important areas of Croydon, and if you give me the opportunity to be your local councillor and your local spokesperson, those ideas that I've mentioned are ideas that I would like to introduce, and I think would make a big impact to our area. So to summarise, I want to introduce a system called Broad Green Online, which I think will make our streets safer, our community stronger, and help bring that investment from Westfield and so on. I want to make our streets safer, not just for Broad Green Online, but I want to see a more permanent police presence around those hotspots, those areas such as West Croydon where I live, and you know, a permanent police, and maybe even a police station if we can afford to have one. But you know, the ideas I want to put out there at least. What else? I want to make sure that we get the full benefit of the investment that's coming in from Westfield and so on. And I think my experience as a local businessman here and as a local employer puts me in a really good position to do that. So one of the things obviously that I've mentioned is to open up a local job club, so that those who are looking for employment are given that opportunity to find it locally. So we've got a local job club. I want to make sure that the council keep investing in our local services like they've been doing. I want to make sure that the library stays there. I want to make sure that places like Wandle Park are continued investment in those local areas, and I want to campaign for that. And I also want to make sure that our youth services aren't neglected. I want to make sure that our young people have got access to those facilities that they need to keep them off the sort of streets and give them opportunity to sort of spend time with each other in a safe environment. So that's one of the things that I want to campaign for as well. So you've heard a little bit about some of the things that I want to do. Also obviously the litter, the council are already investing in making sure that our litter problems and our fly tipping issues are resolved, and I want to make you aware of the facilities that we already have here that our local councillors don't seem to mention to us. A fly tipping service that means that you can report the fly tipping that you see instantaneously with an app on your phone, and so on. So I want to see that our streets are made cleaner, and everything else I've just mentioned. So please, you know, give me the opportunity to represent you and to represent our local community, because I think I can do a good job. I know you might be a Labour supporter, but please consider the fact that I want to represent you regardless of the party that I support. And May the 22nd is a crucial time. I hope you make the right decision, but thanks again for taking the time to listen to what I've got to say. Have a good day.